我邀请了在普林国际学校的营地的负责人，叫 Lynda Rolph 女士。她专注营地教育是很多年的，而且接触了很多中国家长。最近她这个腿伤，没有办法到现场，所以我们就提前录好了视频，大家观看一下如何在独立营地中取得最大的收益。
Hello, everybody. I am Lynda Rolph. I come from the UK, where for many years I worked as a classroom teacher. But today, my work is with Tritok 3 Generation Community in Chiang Mai, where I oversee some of the camp programs and other outdoor programs. And I feel that this brings me into contact with many people like you who are looking for outdoor education and camp opportunities for your children. And I would like to share some of my observations so that perhaps moving forward, you and your child have a smoother transition from being at home to being part of an international camp or a camp away from home, an independent camp experience. So I think the important thing is that none of us can do this on our own. We really are a partnership. And this partnership triangle is made up of you, the parents, because you know your children the best. Even after 2 or 3 or 4 weeks at camp with us, you're still the people that know your children the best. And so we need your support and we need your help if there are any difficulties, so that your children can have a happy time during their independent camp experience. The other important part of the triangle is the camp program itself. The camp staff, facilitators, counselors, teachers, whatever these people are called in the camp that you select. They are the caregivers. They are the people that your children are going to be in contact with 24 hours a day. And so it's really important that we have a relationship with you who know the children best and with your children as well, so that together we can lead these young people through the experience of an independent camp and help them to grow, to learn new things, to make new friends, and to leave camp with a positive experience. And then the third part of the triangle, the very reason that we are doing all of this is for your child. Many outdoor providers, camp providers, we do this not to make ourselves rich, but because we want to give your children an amazing experience. We believe in the power of residential independent programs to allow young people to grow, to develop, to build confidence, resilience, and to build the skills that will lead them forward, whether it be to boarding school, to university, or just to return home and to be more fulfilled as an individual, more able to take responsibility and make decisions. And so during this presentation, I'm going to refer back to this partnership triangle several times. So we all have a role in creating the successful camp. As a camp provider myself, I really value your communication with us pre-camp. It helps us if we understand the needs of your child. Maybe your child has had difficulties at camp in the past, or maybe at school they find it hard to make friends. If we know this information, we're ahead of the game when your child arrives, and we can very quickly allocate a member of staff to shadow your child or to help put the children together in potential friendship groups, rather than wait and see and notice after several hours that the child doesn't fit into a group so well, or needs more adult interaction than some of the other children. So I would encourage you not to feel ashamed if you feel that your child has needs that are maybe different than your next door neighbor's child, but to share those needs with the camp provider. And if we're honest, we will decide, is this the right camp for your child? Because every camp is different. Every experience is different, and different programs will suit different children better. And just because mum likes program A, it doesn't mean it's the best fit for your child. And for your child to have a happy time at camp, we need to get it right, that your child is in an environment that will nurture them and protect them, care for them, so that they can do well and they can flourish. It's helpful if we know if your child has difficulties at school. It helps us to know if your child is taking medicine. So many international programs will not allow your children to hold on to their medicine themselves. This is as part of our duty of care and our child safeguarding. We need to make sure that the medicine is only given to your child and doesn't get forgotten in the bottom of a bag or isn't picked up by another child and taken in error. And so we really find it helpful if you provide the medicine with the information written in English as well as in Chinese or your home language. And the information tells us the name of the medicine, what it's used for, how often it should be taken, and how many doses each time your child should have. It's really difficult on the busyness of the first day of camp to be handed a plastic bag with lots of sachets and little Ziploc bags inside and to be told, oh, my daughter knows how to take her medicine. You know, we want to keep your child and the other children safe. And so for us, even if it's something your child takes every day, we must be able to know what your daughter is taking. So medicine, make us aware and give the information in English is super helpful to any camp provider. Similarly, it's important that we know any allergies that your child may have, or any suspected allergies, or any special dietary needs. And usually this information will be requested by the camp provider in advance. This means that we are able to work with cooks or with whoever is making the menu to make sure that we have the vegetarian food or the gluten-free food or food that can that we can adjust to match the needs of your child. But it's also important that you speak with your child beforehand to make them be responsible. They should know when they take their medicine and contact the nurse, the teacher, the facilitator, if the medicine isn't there immediately for them to have. And similarly with diet and with food and with allergy, the child should also say, oh, I mustn't go near cats, or they should say, oh, I can't eat shrimp, just so that we know that we're all on the same page. And again, we're able to serve your child well and keep them safe. We also require you to contact us well in advance with your arrival and your departure information, especially if this, for various reasons, isn't at the same time as the published beginning and ending of the camp. Different facilitators will have different rules about whether you can join early or late. But for me, knowing the information in advance means that we can make preparations and plans. And for us, we can usually accommodate different arrival and departure times as long as we know. And similarly, if the camp that you select has the opportunity for parents to visit and deliver care parcels or something like that, please notify the facilitators in advance of your visit so that you don't arrive in the middle of an activity that it's really difficult for the child to come out of to meet you. And it may be that you aren't invited into the middle of the camp to meet your child because we want to consider the feelings of other children as well. Imagine if you're a little bit homesick and your best friend suddenly has mum and an auntie arrive with sweets and cookies and hot noodles ready to give you and to welcome you, and you miss your mum even more. And so it may be that we ask you to meet with your child in a neutral place away from the group so that other children don't suddenly think, oh, why doesn't my mum love me too? When that isn't the case at all. So your role in that triangle is to communicate well before the camp of the needs of your child. The camp provider's role is also very importantly to do with communication. In advance of the camp, it's the role of the provider to notify you in the publicity material about the purpose of the camp. Maybe it's a camp to learn English. Maybe it's a camp to develop teamwork skills. Maybe it's mixed activity, all about social interaction. Maybe it's a cultural program. Maybe it's visiting other countries more as a tourist than as a typical camp. So it's important that you understand the camp that you are registering your children to. And one camp is not better than another camp for the type of program. It's all to do with what your expectation is and what your child is ready for and what you hope your child will be able to get out of attending this residential program. The camp provider should make available at least an overview of what the child will be doing each day. But again, please understand that as a facilitator, we may make little adjustments if the weather is different. You know, if we're supposed to be out on the field and there's a thunderstorm, we're not going to put the children in danger. So there may be changes when the camp is happening compared to the program you have had in advance. Or there may be rotations in larger camps and you've been sent the overview of everything the child will do, but you maybe don't have the day-by-day rotation and you think, oh, so why hasn't my child done cooking today? But actually they're in the group that are going to do it tomorrow. So you should know what's happening, but please don't worry if, as the camp is developed, circumstances on the ground mean that things are delivered in a slightly different way. You should know where the campers will stay. Will it be in a hotel, a tent, a dormitory, small apartments? Different camps use different facilities, and that also can affect the interactions of children in the camp. You should ask who will care for your children. Are they people that have been, who have experience of children, some teachers or full-time environmental or outdoor educators? Or are they backpackers that have walked into a job because they've got 2 weeks on their hands? Well, who are your children going to be with? Do they know about children? Do they know about first aid? Are they able to look after and keep your children safe? You should also be aware before camp of any policy or camp rules so that you can talk with your children in advance so they understand the rules a little bit before they meet the camp. And I think that this information on a reputable provider, this will be available on website or on printed publicity material, or it will be communicated to you in advance of the registration for the camp. And then the third part of the triangle, we need the children as well to be involved in the camp. It's important that the children know about the camp that they are going to. Maybe it's appropriate in your family to choose a camp together, to search on publicity material, on social media, and choose the camp together that the child wants to go to. It always makes me a little bit sad on the first morning when a certain kid is a little bit miserable, a little bit glum, and I go and I sit with them and I say, hey, what's the matter? And they say to me, I don't want to be at camp. Oh, you know, 14 days we've got to live through this. If only the parents and the kids can work together and reach the understanding about camp before day one in the camp itself. And then I think it's important that you discuss with your children some of the things that they're going to do so that they're prepared. And if you think it's going to be very new experiences for your children, then I would suggest you talk a little bit about why you think that this is going to be important for them and why you're choosing this particular program for them to participate in. And then I think the preparation together with your children is really vital. You know, going shopping for those toiletries so that they have their new toothbrush or their soap and they get excited by having their things in their bag. talking together about how you're going to pack, maybe going through the packing list together and laying things out for the children to see and check that everything is there, and then vanishing away and letting the child put those things into their suitcase themselves. Because it's really difficult that first bedtime when the child opens the suitcase and like, oh, where are my night clothes? What do they look like? But the child who knows what their pajamas or their night clothes look like, they're already confident about going to bed, and they're not worried and anxious about where the things are that are in their suitcase. So I really do encourage you to talk and prepare and pack things together. And then maybe make sure your children know how they can contact you. Do they contact you through social media? Do they call you? Is there Wi-Fi? Do you need a SIM card or something? Can your child manage their device on their own? If something needs charging or changing, does your child know how to do that? And then talk about it. Everyone is a little bit anxious before they go on a plane and go somewhere. So what's worrying your child? What will help them with that? What can you do to ease them into the transition from your home to the independent camp? In the next few slides, I've considered some of the purposes of going to camp. And I mentioned before, different camps have different purposes. So it could be to learn a specific skill. Maybe it's an English camp, and it's very clear that a lot of the program is going to involve the formal skills of learning English, and that's the main reason for being at camp. But it could be music, it could be sport, it could be any other of a number of things where children will learn skills during the camp for a good block of the time. But you might decide that the school holidays are a time to broaden other areas of your child. You know, there's always homework and after-school study and weekend extra language lessons. So maybe the summer holiday is a time for a different sort of learning. Maybe you want your child to travel and to experience new cultures, new food, to sightsee in different countries. And there are camps that provide those sorts of experience. Or you may not worry too much about what the program content is, because for you, the reason you would like your child to join a camp is to develop independence and to develop social skills. Those skills that are going to stay with your child through the rest of their life and will help them in their university, later on in the world of work, and to help them maybe to adjust if you're considering international school or boarding school in the future. The benefits campers can gain from camp are many, but for me, the top 6 would be social interaction, learning to live together, developing independence, adjusting to new routines and rules, being open-minded to new things, and to develop some sort of problem solving, both in life skills, in managing themselves, and in working collaboratively with other people. And all of us in that partnership triangle, we can all help to make sure that the camper benefits from these things. So social interaction. Imagine your child comes from a home with perhaps one child, just them, or maybe a brother or a sister or a cousin, and suddenly they're surrounded 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with 20, 30, 40, 50 other children. It's not easy. How would you as an adult deal with being surrounded all the time by others when normally you can go and get your cake or your rice or whatever just when you want it? And suddenly you're in this environment that has got new routines, new rules, and you're just one of a number of other children. So I feel some children struggle with being part of a larger group, and it would help camp providers if you as parents discuss before they get to camp things about sharing equipment, scissors, pens, paintbrushes. How should they resolve conflict if there's an argument, if there's a dispute, If someone bumps into you and knocks you by mistake, how should you manage that in an international setting? In most international settings, you would want to distance yourself, to apologize, to talk with an adult and help to solve the problem. And it's not acceptable to punch or to scratch or to be mean to someone because there is a bit of a conflict. So it's important that your child is introduced to these ideas, that maybe there has to be different ways of dealing with things when something might go wrong. Talk with your child about language. They may be in an environment where all of the facilitators don't speak your home language. But that's really not an excuse for swearing, for blaspheming, for foul language. And other children know, many adults will know, and some parents are going to get upset if during the communication time with parents at camp each day, they hear other children speaking bad language. It's not appropriate in an international setting to use foul and bad language in the context of camp. Similarly, fighting is unacceptable in a group. Children should learn to take turns, to wait their turn, to wait for their table to be called to eat. There are these different norms that happen when you're interacting in a big group, and it's different to being at home. So that is a good conversation, I think, to have with your children before camp. But equally important is what to do if you're worried. If you feel you've got a tummy ache or a headache, or you just don't like being with so many people, or you haven't made a friend yet, what are you going to encourage your child to do? I would suggest that they should talk themselves to one of the teachers, counselors, facilitators that they feel comfortable with. And in most outdoor and camp programs, counselors will be ready to support and help the child that doesn't feel well or is feeling anxious because everything is a little bit new. And then the teachers, during activities, there are always in camps the opportunity to promote sharing, to wait your turn, to communicate with each other. The activities and the way camps are set up will encourage leadership and you to follow within a team and develop those skills. And for the children, they will develop the awareness of how to behave well in a bigger group, in an international group. I'm sure for many of you, the desire for your child to become independent is one of the reasons that you seek an independent camp. And I think that there's some practices that we can do at home before camp begins, just in the familiarity of your own home setting, that can start the child on the road to be an independent learner. I would suggest that you maybe allow your children to start doing some jobs around the home. Maybe some laundry, some washing up, some setting a table, some sweeping, some cleaning, so that it's familiar to to participate in jobs like this. Because often in the camp situation, the children will be expected to do some sort of jobs. I've mentioned already packing the suitcase together so your child is comfortable and knows what to do with clean clothes, what to do with dirty clothes, which things they're supposed to wear when they're hiking, which things they're supposed to wear in the bedroom, so that they are comfortable and they don't need to worry and call you when they open their suitcase. And then perhaps the hardest part of letting your children grow as independent young people is for you as parents to step back. Allow your children to make their own decisions at camp. Trust that the setup of the camp and the care and leadership of the facilitators and teachers will provide a safe environment so that your children are able to make decisions. You know, sometimes we send photos from our camp to the parents during camp. And as soon as the photos are released, my WeChat goes bing, bing, bing. And I have a look and it says, "At Lynda, please, my child is wearing the same t-shirt as they were wearing yesterday." Oh, my child is wearing their rubber shoes that they're supposed to wear when they go swimming. Please tell them to take them off. And I do, because I want to support you as parents. But part of me thinks, hey, does it really matter if they've chosen to wear that t-shirt 2 days running? If they start to smell, there will be many people that have a quiet word and say, hey, you wore that a couple of days, it's time to change your t-shirt. But isn't that part of learning? Isn't that part of exercising your decision making about what you choose to wear in the morning? So as hard as it is, if it's not dangerous for your child to be making a decision, I would suggest that part of this growth and this roadway, this journey to independence requires you as mom, as dad, as grandma, as aunt or uncle to step back and allow your children to be independent, as difficult as that might be at first. Teachers at camp, they will give responsibility to your children. They will often produce checklists of what must be in a day bag, discussed together. And when it is safe to allow it to happen, it may be that your child isn't reminded for the 10th time to put their swimming clothes in their bag. Why? Are we mean? Do we want your child to miss out on swimming when they love to go in the swimming pool? Think about it the other way. If there's a list on the wall saying today you will need your swimsuit, and it's been discussed the night before, and in the morning, children have been asked, have you got your swimming costume? And maybe a swimming costume has been held in the air as a visual reminder. And then it's not in the child's bag. When is the child going to learn the most? If they have to miss one swim session, or they have to walk back with the staff and get it and miss 5 minutes of the swim session? Or are they going to learn more if the teacher says, oh, quick, go get your swimsuit? I think that sometimes making a mistake that's not a dangerous mistake to make helps the child remember for the next time and helps them to learn and to develop the independence and responsibility to check with their friends, with the list, with the teacher, so that they have the things that they need. And so the child's part in the partnership triangle is camps will usually provide some opportunity for kids to experiment, to make those safe mistakes, and to take responsibility for their actions. Of course, if we're walking a trail and we mustn't walk in rubber shoes, we're going to make sure the kids have got the correct shoe. But if it's not a really vital issue, sometimes it's okay in the growth for independence that the child realizes, oh, I didn't have this piece of equipment. I'm going to remember next time to make sure that I do. Adjusting to new routines and rules is always going to be difficult in a new place. And whichever country, whichever camp, whichever school you end up going to, the routines and the rules are not all going to be the same as they are at home. I think as parents, you can help with the new routines by preparing for the new experience. If your child sleeps in the same bedroom as you, and they've always slept in your bedroom, and then you're going to send them for 14 days alone without you even being there, maybe it's good to have some practice nights with the child sleeping in a bedroom that doesn't have you in it as well. Or if your child is already comfortable with sleeping alone, then maybe they can go and stay with an auntie or stay with a friend for a couple of nights as like a little practice of getting ready to do this in another country for an extended period of time. And then I would ask that as parents, you support the camp rules. Maybe you want to ask why, and so that you understand them more. But usually the camp rules are developed for the reason of keeping campers safe. Just recently, I got an example that I can share with you about this. For our camp, we have a rule that children shouldn't hold on to their own pocket money, whether it's their home country money or whether it's the currency of the country that they're in. And we do this because we know that children are excited about managing their money, and they often get it out and look at it, and they sit on the bed and they count it, and then they put it somewhere and can't remember where. And then they're anxious because they've lost their money. And they can't believe that they would be so silly as to lose their pocket money. And they come to us and they say, oh, teacher, someone's stolen my money. And then we're into the whole difficult business of hunting for lost money. So our camp, we have pocket money envelopes that we collect and record on the first day, and campers can have their money back as and when it's time for them to buy an ice cream or a souvenir or for wherever they might need their money. But some parents felt, oh, maybe my child needs a bit more money. And unbeknown to us, delivered pocket money at the front gate along with some cookies or some snacks. And then other parents gave a bit more pocket money. So the kids gave in some, but actually they kept some in their pocket or their suitcase as well. And then, you know what I'm going to say? Halfway through the camp, teacher, someone's stolen my money. If only there'd been full understanding of the rules for why we asked to collect the money. One silly example, but if you as parents are supporting the rules, I think it makes it easier for the children as well to follow the rules. And then those rules can keep a safe and comfortable and happy camp atmosphere. The teachers will be responsible for creating routines, developing rules. Some rules will be camp rules. Some rules are likely to be developed along with the children themselves. And then for reinforcing the rules. So often at camp, there needs to be a consequence if the rules are not followed. Maybe it's speaking to the child, then it may be calling to mum, and then it may have to be missing an activity or maybe even going home. Nobody wants to do that, but we have to keep your child safe and we have to keep the other campers safe as well. And so those rules are there not to be difficult, but to enable large groups of people to move through the program of the camp comfortably and successfully. It's helpful if the children understand the reasons for the rules and that they're open-minded, that this is part of their international experience. I've touched a little bit on what developing your child's independence and resilience looks like for the children, but what about for you? It may be that your child suddenly doesn't need to call you every night. And it's not because they don't love you. It's not because they've forgotten you. It's just that actually they don't need to call mom or dad or grandma every night. You're at home. You're missing your child. Your bedroom is empty. But you think about it from your child's point of view. They've got their friends around them. They've got a busy day of exciting activities. And maybe every night it's okay for them not to get in contact with mum. So I would urge you to accept that, as hard as it may be. We will urge, and I am sure other providers will, that children call you most nights. But if they make the choice not to call you some nights, I suggest that you don't feel overly anxious and you realize that this is part of the success of the growing independence that you're wanting for your child. It looks like for you that you're no longer making all the decisions. They might choose the other t-shirt. They might choose to eat things that perhaps you wouldn't let them eat at home every day. They might make choices that you don't necessarily agree with. Talk with your child, let them express their opinion. But I think we cannot have independence and resilience without mum and dad having to step back just a little bit. Teachers, they'll help children take responsibility according to their age. And I've talked about safe mistakes that we might allow your children to make. And children will gradually learn how they can solve their own friendship disputes in a calm and acceptable way. They will gradually learn to make good decisions for themselves. And gradually, as the camp or the boarding period extends, they'll be able to manage those daily routines with less support from you at home and less support from the staff and facilitators with them. And so I think that if that partnership triangle has worked well, you have to be prepared to welcome home a slightly different child. Those days of living independently, of choosing what they want to eat, of maybe a slightly different bedtime routine, all of those things will mean that when your child comes home, the jigsaw piece shape is not quite the same as the child they were when they left home. But embrace it. It's what we're wanting when our children go away, when they travel, and enjoy when they return, hearing their stories and the young person that they've become. Thank you.